Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's Pyromancer here, and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all having a wonderful day, morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are in the world. And Merry Christmas. Well, for a lot of you, it's Christmas right now. For me, here in the United States, it's Christmas Eve. So I hope you all have a wonderful and safe, happy holidays. With that being said, you guys, today we're going to talk about the Primus. I am the Primus. Give me the cube, Sam. We're going to talk about the Primus, who is the former leader of Maldraxxus, head of all houses, the supreme leader, and whose name is definitely not inspired from a band. Definitely not at all. We're going to talk about him today because the Primus mysteriously disappeared. And where did he go? Everybody knows. Literally everybody knows. I think it's pretty obvious where the Primus is, but we're going to talk about some of the things regarding the Primus, regarding Maldraxxus, and some of the things that the Primus says. So, what we know is that in Maldraxxus, there are different houses, I believe 5 of them, that are supposed to kind of work in unison in the sense that they are the sworn defenders of the Shadowlands. And we've seen in some of the cinematics that they have actually ventured outside the Shadowlands in order to take on additional tasks. For instance, the cinematic with Draka, when she is formerly in the House of Eyes, and she is dispatched to a Legion world to seemingly steal a map or something from the Legion and deduce their plan. So we know that the sworn defenders, according to the order of the Shadowlands, and according to what has been established as the correct way of operation by the Primus, by the Archon, by the Winter Queen, and by Sire Denathrius, and presumably formerly by the Jailer, and of course in accordance with the purpose of the Arbiter, we know that Maldraxxus force, those Necrolords, are against the Burning Legion, seemingly. They're at least utilizing the Burning Legion's plans for their own ends. However, it is speculated that the Jailer and Sire Denathrius, given that he is very clearly highly associated with Dreadlords, may have some type of connection with the Burning Legion and have worked with them in order to bring all of this to fruition. All of this story that's unfolded recently seems to be the plot of the Jailer and potentially the Burning Legion, i.e. Sargeras. So we know where they're against them. Here's the thing. There are also some other entities kind of skulking about the Shadowlands, especially in Oribos, that have a particular interest in the Primus. And that would be, of course, the brokers, who we know very little about, but we know that they operate in cartels and they have kind of mid-level workers and low-level workers and high-level leaders. We know that. And we also have seen, if you've done the questing in Maldraxxus, we've seen that there is at least one broker who had a particular interest in a certain location in Maldraxxus. We're going to talk about that more here in a moment. Throughout the Maldraxxus storyline, you find this sword, this perfect blade forged by the Primus. And the Primus is supposed to be this incredible runesmith, the greatest runesmith in all of the Shadowlands. And what is a runesmith? Well, the runesmith is one who would craft, like Frostmourne, for instance, is a great example of a runesmith. And in fact, for all we know, the Primus could have forged Frostmourne. We don't know. You have Frostmourne, you have Shadowmourne, I believe that's another rune weapon. A lot of the things that the Death Knights use are rune blades, right? Sargeras, formerly in his art, had a rune blade. So there are many instances of those existing. In a sense, Xalatath, the Black Blade of the Black Empire, is also a rune blade. It literally has runes adorning its blade. So he's this master smith, right? Well, he's also a master tactician. And you learn through the questing and filling out the runes on this blade that you find, which seems to have been planted for you to find it, you find out that there are some tenets that are meant to be upheld. There are some ideals for like the perfect soldier, essentially, in the eyes of the Primus. And there's 4 or 5 different ones. And as you unlock them, you gain access to the seat of the Primus. And the seat of the Primus, of course, in Maldraxxus is that giant fucking seat with presumably the Primus sitting upon it. Then once you've gained access after you expose the betrayal in the House of the Chosen, which I totally saw coming, by the way, like not even a quarter of the way through the questing, I was like, this Viraz guy is fucking sus, dude. Like the fact that he lived and everybody else died is like, Really, dude? It's always the guy that lives. So anyway, you gain access to this area in the final questing sequence of that zone, and I have not done any of the Covenant stuff like after the fact, so forgive me if I'm missing any valuable information here. And you get an interesting cutscene with the Primus. And it's basically like a visage of the Primus who is speaking to you from beyond the grave, basically, like a message that was left. So the Primus is gone. We can't say beyond the grave because we don't know that the Primus is dead. So we have this message that's given to us, and it basically says, like, yeah, if you're hearing this message, it's like the typical, if you're hearing this, I'm either dead or I've run away to Cambodia with 17 hookers and 7 million pounds of cocaine. It's like one of those messages of like, it's either I'm dead or, you know, the basically what he says is, if you're hearing this, then it means my suspicions were unfortunately true. And that Zovaal is, the jailer, is breaking out of the maw. And something very bad is happening. And the Primus essentially identifies that Zovaal has forged his chains into a weapon. And the Primus also lets you know that he sees Zovaal as a brother, because he literally says, our brother Zovaal, the jailer, so formerly one of them, who apparently did something that really pissed them all off, which we still don't know the details of yet, and that they all banded together to seal him away in the maw, and that he's breaking free. And that this was something that the Primus foresaw, because the Primus certainly has a level of foresight where he can kind of predict what's going to happen. So we learn obviously that the Primus is a target essentially of Zovaal, of the jailer, and that the jailer would want him gone. And another reason why this would be the case is because of his tactical prowess. The Primus, as the leader of the militant force of the Shadowlands, is highly tactical, highly intelligent, and again, seems to have some level of foresight. He's basically like the greatest military tactician of the Shadowlands. Going back to the broker thing, we find out that there's a place called the Sepulcher of Knowledge, or the Sepulcher of Knowledge, rather, is how it's supposed to be pronounced. So for those of you that call it Sepulcher, it is Sepulcher. My stream educated me on that one. But it's a place where the greatest minds of Maldraxxus military leaders have kept their information. After you have left the House of Constructs, I believe it is, there's a little quest up on a ridgeline where you can find a broker, and it's an extra quest where you venture to this Sepulcher of Knowledge. And you basically carry out the will of this broker and unlock it for him so that you can retrieve all of the information from the greatest strategies ever utilized by the Necrolords and by Maldraxxus. So you literally help this guy, who you know nothing about and is clearly sketchy, get some of the most valuable military information ever. Tons of it. In fact, all of it. You literally help him take all of it. And you just do it without any question, because that's what our character does in this game. We help people without question, because they will give us shiny objects in return. But we are the good guys, right? Anyway, it turns out that you can also hear in Oribos, there's a lot of really interesting dialogue between the brokers. There's some good stuff between like High Opulence and cartel members. You can learn that the brokers do have an interest in a place that is referred to as the Sepulcher. Now, the only place that I know of as the Sepulcher is the Sepulcher of Knowledge, and it happens to be in Maldraxxus, which is perfect because Zovaal, according to the Primus, must not be allowed to find the location and reach the Sepulcher. Now, I don't know if that's the Sepulcher of Knowledge because it has the great military strategies of the Shadowlands. I don't know if that's what it's referring to. It could be a different one. And a sepulcher, if I'm not mistaken, is generally like, it's essentially like a tomb where like a very important body is laid to rest. So basically, you find out that the Primus kind of knew that Zovaal was going to do this, that he knew that Zovaal would most likely try to seek out something referred to as the Sepulcher, which, by the way, the brokers, when it's brought up in Oribos, the Grand Opulence, I believe is what it's called, High Opulence or whatever, essentially says, which is one of the cartel members, if I'm not mistaken, like, don't fucking talk about the Sepulcher. Like, why would you dare speak of it? Like, they don't want people to know that they have an interest in whatever this Sepulcher is. And basically, the other broker is like, pardon my excitement. Pardon, I'm excited about it, basically. But we helped a broker break into a place called the Sepulcher of Knowledge that has a lot of the greatest military information ever known to the Shadowlands. So that's great. We also learned from the Primus that apparently the Arbiter is basically like the final key to the order of the Shadowlands, which is just lending credence to and stacking upon this idea that this is some kind of unnaturally enforced order over the Shadowlands. And for all we know, the fucking Eternal Ones could have come together and made the Arbiter. Who the fuck knows? I don't know where she came from. I have no idea. But anyway, she's the key to their order, and she can't be allowed to fall. This is all stuff that the Primus lets you know in his message. The Primus is gone. The Primus has disappeared. And remember, as the greatest fucking runesmith in the Shadowlands, he would be quite valuable in the hands of someone who wanted to do bad things. Well, it just so happens, as you guys could probably have seen coming from 7 trillion miles away, so I'm not going to sit here and pretend like this is some kind of original idea on my part. Like, I think we probably all saw this one coming, that there happens to be a master, like, runesmith, known as the Rune Carver, who is in an oubliette. I think it's how it's said. Oubliette? I'm so sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Some kind of, like, French word or something like that. So, he is in his own little section, chained down in Torghast, the domain of the jailer. It also just so happens that this Rune Carver is such a master runesmith, he can help us craft legendary items. That's how powerful this guy is. And by the way, he does it with one fucking hand. So that's pretty interesting. It is also just perfectly coincidental that the Rune Carver can't remember anything. He can't remember anything. And so part of your progress of going through this is restoring his memories. And over time, he's slowly starting to remember what's going on. We don't know his name. We don't know where he came from. We just know that he's so important to the jailer that he has his own sanctioned off little prison where he is literally tied up with chains and can't escape. Oh, and by the way, I'm pretty sure he has the same voice actor as the Primus. So I wonder where the Primus is. On that note, because it's quite obvious who I think the Primus is, I think the Rune Carver is the Primus. I think it's super obvious. And I think, you know, a lot of times people are like, well, no, that's too easy. Like, it can't be that. You know, sometimes a spade is a spade. And taking a guess like the Rune Carver is the Primus is basically like saying Sylvanas burned down Teldrassil. Because I don't know if you guys remember, back when that first came out and we learned that someone had burned Teldrassil down, me and many other people jumped up and were like, who is framing Sylvanas? Like, what happened? Who did this? Was it Rathian? Was it like, who did this? Was it the Legion? We basically took something and we overcomplicated it. And we do this with a lot of things. And I'm guilty of it too. We do it with a lot of the old God Whispers, where a lot of them I think are a lot more straightforward than people think. Like people think it's ultra cryptic and like it's a puzzle meant to be unwound. And it's like, well, maybe not. Like, maybe they're just kind of telling you straight up sometimes, and we should just like literally take it at face value. And I think that the Primus and the Rune Carver is another one of those instances. Sometimes the obvious answer is the right answer. And as of right now, the only piece of evidence that would say that the Rune Carver is not the Primus is that the motherfucker has an extra finger. That's it. And that used to be the basis of my argument as to why the Rune Carver isn't the Primus, but that's a stupid argument. Souls are literally shaped into other beings while in the Shadowlands and while in Torghast. So him mutating a little bit, or maybe his final model not quite matching the model that they designed for his statue in the Seat of the Primus, maybe those don't align, right? Because a lot of you saw the original concept art for the Jailer, which looked way fucking cooler, and we might still get that if it turns out that that's like the powered up version of the Jailer, but then that's not how Zovaal looked at all. He looks completely different. And that was an actual cinematic that they showed us at BlizzCon. So it's not far-fetched to believe that there's this potential for an incontinuity between one statue of the Primus and the actual Primus himself as he now exists as potentially the Rune Carver. Here's another thing, is that we know that some of the cartel, I think it's Cartel Ba, I believe it is basically trying to find Venari, who is the broker who helps you in the maw, you find out that they are kind of trying to find her and stop what she's doing, as though they too kind of, in a sense, maybe support the jailer or trying to stop whatever's going on. But it is possible that in some capacity, considering the brokers seem to be like almost purely transactional and don't believe in this purpose that's being thrown in our faces by the denizens of Oribos, that they could in some capacity have a deal with the jailer. And that the reason why they're looking for and trying to stop Venari is because she's going against what they're trying to do. Because Venari is basically like the rebel, right? The one going against the jailer in the maw. And so it's perfectly ironic to me and I think funny that it just is this coincidental and convenient. And then we have the brokers tied in with the Sepulcher of Knowledge. And I don't even know what that guy did with all the information. He just takes all of that militant strategy and just fucking leaves. And he's like, see ya, idiot. Like, thanks for the help, dumbass. Here's your green questing item. See you later, dude. That was a good trade, don't you think? And you're just like, what the fuck? Like, what did I just do that for? I just gave all this incredibly valuable information to some random broker. And then we find out that the brokers are trying to find a place called the Sepulcher and that they don't speak of it, and that the Primus doesn't want the fucking jailer to find the Sepulcher. So, and there's always the chance that it's not the same thing, but it would just seem perfect if it were. But it could definitely be a different thing, because the jailer could be seeking out something even further beyond that. Maybe the tomb of the true Argus. I don't know. I'm just throwing shit out there. It's just, I don't know. I thought that this whole thing is just very funny, because to me it seems like the rune carver is definitely the Primus. And you know what exactly Zovaal had done with him, I'm not sure. Maybe that's how Frostmourne was crafted. Maybe he made the rune carver craft Frostmourne. You know, and I would imagine that the runes on Zovaal's body were probably carved onto him, probably by the Primus, because we know they all banded together in a certain way in order to imprison him originally. So they probably all had a little piece of how that worked. You know, they all had, I'm sure each covenant in each zone has a little thing that they did in order to make this possible. For instance, like the Winter Queen utilizing the heart of the forest in order to make the maw inescapable. You know, I don't think that that's terribly far-fetched. They each had something that they did. And with the rune carver, it could have literally been carving runes into the skin of the jailer as some type of prison. But runes have power. And so it's possible that the jailer took the power held within those runes, forging his chains into a weapon, and did something, you know, in order to go against the Primus. It's just one of those things where it's like Zovaal seems to have outplayed potentially one of like the greatest tactical minds, but even though he saw it coming. So yeah, I would definitely say that the rune carver is the Primus. I think there's like a 95% chance of that. And it would make sense because it's stated nowhere that the Primus is actually dead. He's just missing. And so for this rune carver guy to be a master runesmith who can't remember anything, I think we're gonna call a spade on this one. And I think the obvious answer is probably the right answer. So that's my thoughts on the rune carver and the Primus. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I've been excited to talk about this one just because I think, I don't know, it's a fun thing to hit on those little details, and I'm excited to see what happens with the brokers moving forward. I'm excited to see if we can fully restore the rune carver's memories. I know that there's a cinematic that you get apparently when you get 15 memories. I only have like 12, so I think I need a couple more, so I haven't seen that yet. So I might end up making another video on that at some point. You know, theories change as more information comes along, as they should. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, please give me a subscription, you guys. It takes 2 seconds, it's literally free, and there's only one way I can get a silver YouTube play button, and that's by you hitting that subscribe button and supporting me. If you guys want to help me out and make sure that this video is seen by more people, hit the like button. If you guys don't know, hitting the like button actually helps spread the video, which is amazing. Thank you guys so much for those of you that do that. A huge thank you to my patrons for being amazingly supportive, as usual. You guys are awesome. You got my top patrons, you got my patrons over $10 here, and then everybody else has access to other content. So I'm trying to get more of that pumped out for you guys as well. If you guys have a Twitter, I would appreciate you following me over there. Just Pyromancer Sarg, like Sargeras, but without the Eris. You got twitch.tv/Pyromancer if you want to come hang out and talk lore on stream every once in a while. And I do have a link to my Discord down in the description below if you guys want to check that out. So with that all being said, you guys, I appreciate you so much for watching this video. Merry Christmas or whatever it is that you celebrate. Stay awesome, and until next time, I'll see you guys later. Peace!